All right, everybody, another CIRF week is on deck. And just like the I-Ching talks about in the whole philosophy of the I-Ching, it's in those energy shifts. It's the energy's always changing. And this week is that. It's going from one big energy to another. And the secret to life, according to the I-Ching, is like figuring out these shifts, being in and adapting to those changes. It's ever changing. And such is the week of July 20th through the 26th, 2023. Oh, speeding ahead a little bit too far. Here we go. Here's our influence chart. And we're going to be doing the same thing for the solution. So that's later in the show. But you got to know what to feel. And I think the big news is the sun going into Leo. That's probably the biggest energetic shift. So it's an ego represented by the sun that's going to feel the bulk of this energy, and not just because of going into Leo, but sun's got an opposition to Pluto. And that's going to pack a very subconscious but powerful punch to this shift. The I Ching says youthful folly, and that is a direct reference to the Leo energy, and which, by the way, is like roughly right in the middle of our CIRF week. So this is the second half. The I Ching is mainly the second half, although, to be fair, Venus and Mercury are already in Leo, so that's still holding true. Now, there'll be 3 planets in Leo once that happens, but the beginning part of our CIRF week is Sun in Cancer. And that's what the Dreambot's showing. There's a lot of caring and cared for and nurtured. And then there's time as well. So we'll discuss that. That's more of a reference probably to Saturn. Saturn's got some stuff too. We have a first quarter moon. So this is the time to really start putting pressure on the accelerator and start moving out towards your Cancer goals. Remember, we just had a Cancer new moon. And in that new moon, we should have been setting some 30-day, maybe less than 30 days. The optimum is more like 14 to 21 days goals to get done in terms of Cancer stuff, like home and what are you going to nurture, what are you going to protect, what's some areas of protection that you need to shore up in your life, those kinds of concerns. And so this is the time to really start going after those. Planning, final planning, and starting to do stuff at the first quarter moon, as well as some other things that we'll talk about. We have a pretty high congruency score, but the overlap is right around that sun and what the sun's doing, going from Cancer over to Leo. We also have, worth talking about here in the overview, is Venus station and retrograde, and then Venus and Mercury on a collision course. Won't be going conjunct this week, but they will soon. All right, ready? Let's get going. So much on my mind. I've got a lot of comments here, so I'm going to just try to be brief. Right? Big shout out to Pam, aka Terry. You won the best comment award for this week. Be like the water, Bruce Lee. Wonderful. 6 up arrows. Couldn't be happier for you, Terry. Shout out to you. And thank you all for your wonderful comments. It helps us out here. Let's get talking about the Dreambot. The Dreambot is a collection of international dreams, goes out there and looks at the dream words and then compares them to their baseline. Speaking of baseline, woke, starting to decrease again in accordance with its new baseline. So that's interesting. We'll see if it maintains its space on our Dreambot, but it's good to see it's at least dwindling. Let's see here at the top, vile. And that's not the disgusting theme. This is the vile, like a vial of blood. So that goes into our nurturing. So the red arrows is about nurturing, eating, being fed, being taken care of. And then the blue arrows are just time, direct references to time. There you go. There you have it. That's the Dreambot. Let's get back to our astrology, give you an overview. We're in between these black vertical lines and there's a lot happening. So this is Venus that's going to go retrograde roughly halfway. All these big shifts are right in the middle of our CIRF week. The big shift in the sun going into Leo. This is just days after our new moon in Cancer. We have a Sun and Pluto in an opposition, and as like to be taken over or to take over, because Sun shortly right after this climax or this perfection in the opposition with Pluto goes into dominating Leo. So it's power and power. It's a very powerful alignment. And then we have a change in thinking. We have, again, in the middle of the week, this Mercury and Uranus go exact in a square. So it's like pressure to change in your thinking. And we'll identify that here. But now let's go day by day. Thursday the 20th. Here are our energies. Actually, here's a snapshot of the most dominant energies, because we could spend all day on all these alignments. The first thing I'd like to show you is that it seems a lot more organized on this day than we did at the tail end of the last CIRF report. So it might feel like the universe is a little bit more ordered, even though it may not be all that pleasant. Remember our father time, Saturn. This is a opposition to Mars, Moon, and Venus. So there's kind of some challenges, some hardships, and if Saturn is in Pisces, we have limitations on things Pisces. So maybe spiritual limitations or some connection limitations or challenges, and they have to balance those out with like say for example Mars is going to be the closest one. Look there, he's at 6 degrees. Saturn's at 6 degrees, so that's going to go exact on Thursday the 20th, a little bit later in the afternoon. But major challenges in getting important tasks done. So you can be blindsided by some challenges or some limitations in trying to get these things done. Same thing holds for the moon. The moon will whip around here probably by the change of day and be in an opposition, perfect opposition, and then a loose opposition with Venus that won't really ever make that exact for now, because she's going to go retrograde before it perfects. Then let's talk about these squares. We still have that. We left off last CIRF report with this power struggle between Leo and Taurus, the two powerhouses in the zodiac. And steadfast Taurus has got the change agent and expansive. So it's expansive changes in the material sense against the fire in Venus and Mercury, but also in this Virgo thing. So half of the fire is now going into Virgo. It doesn't reduce the conflict that's happening here, the pressure system, and it's across a lot of different archetypes, because when you combine Mars, Moon, Venus, Mercury, and then with these other two players over here in Taurus, it's a lot. It's a lot of different ways that this is going to affect us in our lives, and it'll probably feel like the pressure to do something, the pressure to change something, the pressure to maybe feel or find the optimism in things, or maybe over exaggerating things with the Jupiter there. So you got that. And then the big news that's going to affect us a lot more later is the sun oppose Pluto with only 2 degrees orb. So it's pretty tight already. And this opposition is a very subconscious thing. So this power and control is a big issue with Pluto, especially where we want to go. That's a Capricorn lens that we're looking through. Power and control to make goals and carry out the goals, possibly, but that's in opposition to. So there's a forcing of balance that's got to happen with your ego. The ego wants to protect things. So do I just protect what I have versus is my power more associated with going to get something or making my goals? Well, that'll clear itself up once we get to the first quarter moon. So that's at least the relief that we'll have. We might have some overcaring going on here in general context of this opposition alignment, Sun opposed Pluto. That denotes kind of like Cancer and having to do more, or kind of mixing between caring and controlling, like that's the overcaring thing. So watch out for that. Don't want to control others, right? Friday the 21st. This is where Venus at 11:11 p.m. Central Daylight Savings Time on July 21st, Venus is going to go station. What station means is she's going to freeze according to our relative movement with the Earth. And she's going to appear to stop in the sky. And what that'll do is put a big old spotlight on Venus and things relationship, a big spotlight on finances. And it's Venus that's in fun, loving, and creative and artistic, childlike, maybe leadership like Leo. Almost said Venus again. And so it's through that lens that we're going to feel that Venus energy in that higher spotlight. Higher spotlight because a stagnant planet is said to emit more energetic particles to Earth because it's not in movement. And so that'll last for a few hours before she starts her retrograde. But we also have more, this power struggle theme is going to continue. And I'll put a summary slide in. I have a chart to show you where this energy is the strongest and when it starts to decline. But I want to point out this inconjunct here with Pluto. Pluto in conjunct Venus that is in station. So we already know that relationships and finance and how we relate to others and whether or not we feel beautiful or not is a much higher focus. But we have adjustments to be made with Pluto and vice versa. And so power struggles might present itself. So we're adjusting to those. And anytime we're adjusting, people are adapting. The people who can adapt very well tend to start controlling the situation, which is what Pluto even is. So we've kind of got some resistance points, if you will, because it's a Pluto controlling power, question mark, and in terms of relationships. So how we relate to others, if it goes bad, if people can't figure this energy out and know that there's change happening with relationships surrounding the idea of power and control, then there will be power and control. All right, Saturday, the 22nd. And again, we're not talking about every one of these alignments. Remember when I talked about things kind of felt like they were organized? This is starting to get a little bit more haphazard. So a little bit more chaotic as we have this big shift. And the big shift here is the sun going into Leo. That's at 8:50 p.m. Central Daylight Savings Time on the 22nd. So the 22nd in the evening is when this energy is going to get a lot more playful, artsy, creative, kind of carefree, impulsive, fire, possibly selfish, if you will, but more childlike, like carefree, creative. It'll be a fun release of energy. You don't have to care so much, right? This is for the spotlight on ego. All right, then on Sunday, the 23rd, this is when Venus is going to start to go retrograde, and retrograde is full speed retrograde, which is never really as fast as her going direct, but as fast as she will go, picks up momentum at 5:37 p.m. on July 23rd, again Central Time. And so now we have this situation where in Leo, we have the sun in Leo, we have Venus with a heavy spotlight. So most of that energy was in those previous hours coming from like a day and a half of Venus in a slight retrograde, but mostly station. But now she's in a full retrograde headed towards direct Mercury. So they're on their path to each other, and they will meet eventually here. Now remember, we have Sun in Leo, so much more carefree, but remember still opposition to Pluto, and it's a tight one. So we're only talking about a degree or two on the other side. So still transforming. Ego has to transform, which if ego at all is a little bit more maladaptive, you're going to see problems ensue on this, and you're not even going to really to know where it came from, because Pluto's so subconscious, so far out there. The more distant the planet is in our astrology, it's said to be deeper into the psyche, internal, and Pluto being the furthest out. So hence the deepest part of the psyche, most subconscious. Monday, the 24th. Oh, this is midday. The big news, Mars and Jupiter able to do practical things because it's two earth signs. But it's resulting in some optimism, some expansiveness. Now this could be, it could be an illusion of expansiveness, because Jupiter holds no automatic boundaries along those lines. So you might overwork, might be a perfectionism influence there, because trine is easy and it's with Jupiter, so it's going to feel really good. And this could be turn into more of like a, like a mania, or more of probably like a workaholism, and losing track of time and just really embedded in your work. And but it's feeling good the whole while, and then only in hindsight probably feel like, I probably did a little bit too much, I lost track of time. That'll be common. We have Mercury and Venus in 5-degree orb headed towards each other, with an emphasis in Leo. Sun, Venus, Mercury, all in Leo. So fun-loving, carefree, vanity might be there. And then the Venus retrograde I haven't mentioned, and in terms of a retrograde, is probably revisiting some old relationships, or revisiting some lessons learned and how you did your finances, and it's in the mind too. So Mercury and Venus together is a mental space. It's got the mental influence of Mercury. It's a communicative space. It might be old agreements that might be brought back to you, but not just on this day. I'm talking entirety of Venus retrograde. And we have the first quarter moon. So we have moon in Scorpio with a perfected square over to the sun. And by that definition, it is the first quarter moon, 90 degrees out. So that's a T-square. So there's a lot of pressure on this, a lot more pressure than normal just on a first quarter moon. And this pressure is a good thing, in my opinion, of putting, it's kind of waking us up from the rejuvenation of the last quarter moon to the new moon. And it's a very dreamy time and a very imaginative time. It's not a lot of doing time. So this is the first quarter moon. It's kind of like the wake up call. Hey, we need to start getting our goals done. And so now you've got the passion of Scorpio, you've got the double square. So, I wouldn't be too averse to this pressure. It's a pressure on the emotions, pressure on your passions. And so I think it's a good thing to get us off the couch and get us started on our goal sets from that Cancer new moon. So I think that's a fresh start to our new moon cycle. First quarter. All right, Wednesday, the 26th is our last day of the CIRF report. And a lot of oppositions. We have a lot of trines. So oppositions kind of speaks to balancing. Things might feel a little bit out of whack, out of balance. We have a lot of trines, so a lot of easy energy moving about, but it's really chaotic. A lot of inconjuncts, a lot of adjusting. So it's kind of the summary day that, hey, the I-Ching is at work here. The whole week we're just morphing and adapting, and the energies are changing. Wednesday in particular, forced to balance, forced to adapt because of those inconjuncts. All right, let's get into the I-Ching. Our I-Ching reading for this week is Youthful Folly, and that's a perfect match to the Leo energy. So we know that Venus and Mercury were already there. We have the Venus station, which highlights not just Venus, but also the Leo lens of Venus. So brings out a little bit more of this youthful folly, especially at the beginning of the week. I'm sorry, the end of the week, especially at the end of the week, or the second half. Be on guard for careless or rebellious attitudes, characteristic of inexperience. Give up trying to convince others that you are right is both exhausting and counterproductive. There's 3 lines that is really important. That's why I didn't really highlight a whole lot from up there. Just the name itself is, youthful folly is indicative of the energy that we're feeling. This is line 1. It is the nature of youth to stumble into error through carelessness or playfulness. Similar problems can plague childish adults too. So you're going to see, especially at the second half of the week when the ego moves in, or the sun moves into Leo, you're going to see this more with other people because they're not aware. They're just kind of be a little bit more playful and make mistakes, and they're going to create errors. Line 2, treating foolishness kindly can actually bring good fortune. So be patient with these other people. Be patient with these energetically ignorant people, okay? And then line 5 says, a fresh innocence brings good fortune. So let's get back to that. That's the childlike openness and trying new things and not assuming, and with the mind, it's uncoiling the mind. It's a learning state. So this is a learning mind in the mentality, because again, we have Mercury in Leo. And so that is an uncoiled, if you will, like struggling to figure things out. That's a coiled thing. High focus, coiled, problem solving, coiled. And the whole Mercury in Leo is much more of an uncoiled, and it's more equivalent to a learning state, a learning mindset. So, in a learning mindset, your mind is open and a sponge. So you become a magnet for fresh insights and gain unique glimpses into the nature of things. Here's the graph I was talking about, and we have the red arrow that is really high. That's the power struggle. The red line is the power struggles, and it starts extremely high, tip top up at the 10 level, and it starts to tailor off as those alignments that point to power struggles wears off. And they all kind of do that at the same time. And they titrate off. They don't just drop suddenly. And then youthful folly is really coming on board. This might be a less drastic increase right here, but because we have Venus and Mercury in Leo. So it might start over here and have a gradual increase. But once that sun hits Leo, now we're into that youthful folly for the remainder of the CIRF week at a high level. So let's summarize. Let's go to our summary slide and get the influence done. Can zoom in even more. That's about it. Really liked this art. This was a product of both online picture brought into PowerPoint and selected just an easy setting, click, and I think it's great. Here's our overview. Venus initiates a cascade of energetic shifts early in the week, a strong spotlight into close relationships and money. By Saturday, Sun enters Leo, and suddenly the air is playful, childlike, and just fun. Then comes the subtle pressure of the first quarter moon to motivate us to carry out this month's lunar goals that you set at the Cancer new moon. Didn't you? All right, get the solution slide ready to go. And we'll come back and do our solution stuff. All right, here's the solution. When we put the change lines in, you get 42 increase. Hexagram 42 says leadership in times of increasing opportunity involves commitment to the needs of the cohorts and dependents. That's a very Sun in Leo thing, being a leader, by remembering that to lead is to serve. A leader strengthens his or her ability to bring about a lasting increase in prosperity. Also very true with Venus and Venus station in Leo. When opportunities for increase arise, very good fortune comes to those who act swiftly and boldly without falling into the trap of letting their actions be merely self-serving. So we've got the task of pouncing on opportunities, but don't make them too greedy. Don't make them too self-serving, all right? And make sure they're value-based. We'll get into that a little bit later. But we need to put our conversion chart in. We brought Leo in, Sun going into Leo, and brought this into our conversion chart, which puts us into 56 of the rave, gate 56. And then we're right down the middle between Sidereal Gemini and Sidereal Cancer. And so you can select Sidereal Cancer if you'd like. That'd be a lot more nurturing and protecting, and that's fine. But I'm choosing for this report Gemini, because the sidereal zodiac moves in that direction, but more importantly, Gemini's got the adaptability that overlaps with our I-Ching and rave. So we've got 56 of the rave. That's the wanderer. Stability through movement. There it is, moving. Perpetuation of continuity through the linking of short-term activity. And basically what it's saying is moving regularly will add stability to you, but it will also help you be able to adapt to the changes. Line 4, which is where the Sun is when it goes into Leo, is expediency, the perfection of the superficial personality that can mask, when essential, its true feelings to secure protection. The gift for stimulation as a role and for protection. So it's, again, not wrong if you chose the Cancer sidereal, right? Because the rave does talk about protection, which is a very Cancer type thing. All right, here we go. Let's talk about our overall solution. And I even remember to do the runes, but don't focus on the runes just yet. I-Ching 42. Remember, that one is pounce on your opportunities, but don't be self-serving. And these opportunities might be based in leadership. They don't have to be. And you don't have to be the leader. It's opportunities. You don't have to take opportunities. You only take the opportunities that are right for you. So you got to use intuition. Then the rave said stability through movement, as well as hiding your true feelings. And then I chose Sidereal Gemini to be versatile, alert, and communicative. All right, so here we go. Overall triangulation. In this energetic shift, you need to keep moving because according to the rave, this is your best chance at, paradoxically, finding stability. Stabilizing through movement, constant movement. The energy this week, constantly moving. And this will also facilitate following our I-Ching advice. Pounce on the opportunities affording you in very Leo style. This includes an opportunity for leadership, even if it is just temporary. Invoke the Gemini superpowers of adaptability, alertness, and agility. Got to stay aware of those opportunities. And these are in addition to the already set goals from the new moon. So you had those Cancer type of goals, right? And this is the time to start achieving those. But as you're moving towards those goals, you might see some other opportunities on the side. It's time to pounce on those. Okay. I don't know what the priority is between, well, what if we have like these big opportunities, but you said it's also time to be carrying out your Cancer goals. So which one's more important? Unfortunately, I don't think it's right for everyone. You're just going to have to do this case by case. You'll have to use intuition to know. Address anxiety and think calmly. Remember, when you invoke the Gemini, Sidereal Gemini behaviors, you're going to get probably a little bit more heightened, well, probably alertness, but along with that is a little anxiety. That's what helps you be alert. So it's address those anxieties so that you can think calmly, so that you can make the right decisions, such as the one that we posed earlier. The fourth line of the rave adds some very detailed finesse that you should include this week. When added emotional protection might be needed, without being devious, without being superficial, without being self-serving, try to perfect the superficial personality. In other words, the outer part of yourself that interacts with others, that normally is a genuine. We tend to be much happier when we're genuine. But this week, the rave says, I don't know, you might need to protect yourself this week with your true feelings. And so the perfection of being able to know when to invoke that and when to be more genuine is very key this week. Should I be fake? We're not saying fake. We're just saying that there are times when your true feelings should be held back. And this is the week that you need to be on guard for that. Since you'll be out seizing opportunities, it might be essential to hide your true emotions. I wouldn't make this a habit. I think a lot of us have this habit. That's called repression, and that's not good chronically. But if we can be aware enough to know when it's right to hide your true feelings and when not to hide your true feelings, that would be another secret to a good life, good happy life, right? Because even the people who work towards genuineness and work hard at it and be really, really genuine, and they have like an emotion or an urge to say something that the group doesn't want to hear. There are times when you could be at great risk for saying your true feelings or your true thoughts, right? So this is the week to kind of iron out those that continuum. Don't be one way or the other. It really depends, but it's time to focus on that according to the rave. So with the Gemini versatility, quote, I remain agile. I recognize the opportunities divinely meant for me. In other words, I know when they are in my divine path that I need to jump on this opportunity. Not all opportunities you want to jump on. It's each one by one. You see the opportunity because you're adaptive and because your uncoiled mind is able to be aware of that. And so you know that this one is for you and you go after it. And then finally, good things happen to me! Exclamation point. And in that regard, so we need the versatility and we need the pouncing. So I chose Sowilo and Tiwaz for our runes. Now, these are optional. You don't have to go use these. And I would like to know if you guys use these runes or is it just me? I put these, what do you call them? Well, I'll just put these runes into aspects and carry them with me throughout the week. And it helps me invoke, not only remember what behaviors to enact, but in a magical sense, it is manifesting that archetype. So Sowilo keys are light, energy, good health, success, but in a more of a magical or a manifesting form. It's to strengthen self-confidence, especially when we are trying to be versatile and moving and adjusting with all these energetic changes. I want to be self-confident with motivation, with success, especially with these opportunities. I want to make sure that I'm successful in taking the right opportunities and then successful in actually grabbing the opportunity, making the most of it. So victory over challenges. Anytime we're adapting is a challenge. So when I'm seizing an opportunity, I want to have victory and spiritual guidance. That's the divine part. Is this thing right for me? And then we have Tiwaz, which is really bringing out the underlying, forgot to mention the overall lunar cycle, the 6-month lunar cycle. What we're dealing with is the Aries energy. So that's the Tiwaz. It's bringing out my inner warrior alongside the adaptability and success of seizing the opportunities. All right. How did I do today? Is this helpful? Is all this helpful for you? Did I do enough explaining? Is it clear what the best behavior in terms of our triangulation is? And do you agree with these runes? Are these useful to you? All right, everybody. Thanks for the new people to be here. If you have more questions, there is an intro video that you can look at and get more idea for what we're trying to do here. A lot of places will try to give you as much data as they possibly can. I'm more involved with simplifying everything, taking the big context of all these energetic shifts and simplifying it to where you can look for the main influence and then be confident, hopefully, according to our triangulation, about focusing in on a behavior that maximizes your success given all these energies or this one main energy. So that's what we're trying to do here. And hopefully we're getting more and more precise and more helpful for you. So thanks for being here, and we will see you next week. Thanks, everybody.